Oh, here we go. Hi, my name's Sam Meech. I'm the filmmaker who did Noah's Ark. That was in 2010. I'm utterly delighted that it's playing in 2023 in Manchester Poetry Library, in partnership with the Northwest Film Archive, where it was made. I'm going to talk a little bit about the film, about the process, as well. I have some questions which hopefully I can dig up and enlighten myself about how I made it.
I believe there will be supernatural things take place in this service tonight.
It's a film I'm very proud of. I often say it's the best film I've ever made, the best thing I've ever made. And it's a very beautiful film, and I can say that without being immodest, because none of the film in it is mine. None of the images are mine, none of the sounds are mine, none of the text is mine. The story is not mine. You know, I stole it from this book or something, or this film with Russell Crowe.
He's going to destroy the world.
Actually, no, that came out afterwards. But it's something I'm really proud of, because I just got to piece it together from these elements.
How can our house, which is the house of the passage of time, be closed and blinded with tin and card? How can our time, which was our only reliable inhabitants, finally be manufactured, stacked, and manifested as though in the life of a stranger?
Yeah, there are themes of preservation and the fear of loss, and what it means to look after something. On the one hand, to save something, you probably have to let go of something else. And yeah, that's something I think about a lot. Right now, I'm literally in a cupboard full of old films. So my job now in Montreal is I work for a video art organisation. They've been around 50 years, and they have over 2,500 films. And someone has to make sure that they don't all disappear. So we have loads of old films going back to the 70s on various different forms of beta, U-matic, mini DV. And I'm just showing you this bit, because this is like the physical bit. This is like the tip of the iceberg. We have a storage unit off-site, which is huge. But this is the bit you can see. The other flip side is the digital, the digitized version. So we have a server where we can access all of the films digitally, but that's just a black box with blinking lights. But you know, it has its own problems. If the power goes off, what do we do if there's a fire or a flood?
This is the one constant water.
What do we do? How is that backed up? So it's kind of like, I thought, oh God, I used to worry about this a lot with my own work in 2010. Now, 13 years later, I'm like, oh, now after the challenge is like 1,000 times bigger.
Some malformed sense is born to me.
So yeah, I'm going to answer a couple of questions about the project. So what was the inspiration behind the Noah's Ark collaborative project? Well, the project came about through a festival called Abandoned Normal Devices. In 2010, I think this was their second year, they set up a residency in partnership with the Northwest Film Archive called Gleaners. And so Gleaners was in reference to this idea of like making meaning, to read between the lines, but also I suspect it was a reference to the film The Gleaners and I by Agnes Varda.
Glaner, c'est ramasser après la moisson. Glaneur, glaneuse, celui ou celle qui glane.
Where she follows people who come after a harvest and take the leftover bits. And it's, in some ways, artists are very good at that. We're good at taking bits which don't apparently have value, but we can take the bits and create something new from them, extract those last nutrients of meaning in order to make something that nourishes us and hopefully other people as well. So yeah, the brief was that we had to make a 20-minute film, but in partnership with a musician. So there was myself and another artist who got chosen. The other artist, Jenna Collins, worked with a musician called Seeming Toe. And I worked with Carl Brown from Wave Machines. But also Nathan Jones, a poet who he himself had worked a lot with Wave Machines as a band on these very strange projects which kind of pulled the band away from like pop and pulled them into instrumental score, and Nathan himself pushed him into new strange character performance territory where he's performing as a character.
You are my old trinkets I would save from the fire. I may burn, you may brand my hand, but I won't let go.
So I like the way that they work together, and also how they change their own practices to adapt to each other. So yeah, that was it, and we made this film, and the premise was also then that we would tour it as a live performance, which we did across Liverpool, Manchester, London, Cumbria. So was there anything about the film curation process that you found particularly challenging? The thing that I found the most challenging was how slow the process was.
There is no home you can carry away. There is no home to hide in.
But what was really interesting was all of those things, all of those, not barriers, but the kind of things that slowed the process down were the things that helped me and made me think very carefully about what I wanted. And I think, in truth, that's why it's the film I'm the most proud of. I think that's why the film is as good as it is because I had to really think carefully about where I searched, what I was searching for, then when I found stuff, which bits I selected, how they would go together, what I was trying to say. And so a lot of the decision making, a lot of the filmmaking really had taken place in my head before I even was able to open Final Cut Pro and stick things on the timeline. The first interface I encountered was the database, and so you just literally have a text form and you'd enter search terms such as like Mancunian Way or random things, and then you'd get a description of a film based on those search results, and based on the description you'd decide, maybe I'd like to watch that. So I would compile a bunch of films that I wanted to watch based on the description, and then I would ask Will McTaggart to go if he could get them for me, and that would take him quite a bit of time as well. So there was this staggered process, and it's also taking up someone else's time. I don't want to just like ask for things I don't think I need and waste their time. So I had to be careful and quite economic, relatively economic. Obviously, in the end, Noah's Ark is made of about 80 different films, so I kind of took everything I could to that extent. But I had to be very picky during the process.
And the frisking in time for some level of forgiveness.
And then I would watch these DVDs and VHS, and I would just make notes, time codes, or this thing happened here, and I would have to interpret that afterwards. Like why did I describe it as this thing? To help me overcome that, I would take pictures on a digital camera, and those pictures then helped me storyboard the film as it was going along. When I was watching the film, obviously I must have spotted Noah's Ark, The Ride in Blackpool, because there are a lot of holiday films in the Northwest Film Archive where people went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach and had a lovely summer, and so there are several Noah's Arks in there, and I was like, now I know what I'm looking for. I'm wondering about what can I choose? Not everything can go in my film, and my film is this like time capsule it's going to live on, and not everything can get into the time capsule, so I have to be really picky on what is the film even about. And then I saw Noah's Ark and I thought, that's the point. It's about preservation, and preservation is about making some pretty difficult choices about what to let go, what goes on the ark. So I decided to make the film just like, can I make Noah's Ark using only things I find in the archive. So that gave me a narrative structure. So I started searching for floods and animals, which I found in Bellevue Zoo, and then a Noah character who was the preacher from Hume Church. So yeah, that gave me the structure and a way to find things to put it together. But the nice thing was I'd kind of worked it out so thoroughly on paper that by the time I got to do the actual editing, it was just a case of like, yeah, follow the script, put the things one after the other and tighten it up. Yeah, why did I choose to work with a poet? In a sense, because when I got this film together, I was like, well, it kind of makes sense to me, but it's still just a crazy collage. In my head, I'm going, yeah, this is the story of Noah's Ark. It's very clear to me, but I realised it probably wouldn't be clear to other people, so I needed this voice over the top, a narrator, and I needed someone to write that script. And so I asked Nathan, and of course he's a poet, so he didn't make things clearer, he made things more complex. So he writes another story over the top, so it's not the story of Noah's Ark, it's some story of a guy grieving, or, you know, personal loss and holding on to the memories of Moana.
But you are the woman of my memories, and beyond that you volunteered for nothing.
Or there's probably several stories in there. There are several themes, and Nathan himself had kind of compiled this out of various bits that he'd scraped from other projects and experiments, and he was trying to just match them up, I think, to the film. But in doing so, what he did was he kind of uncovered these depths and this idea that this one story is potentially many stories, and he was making these new connections with the images.
That even our children, whose names have divided the family in every direction, knew in their infancy was a construction we would come to despise and fear.
And it felt like there was a lot more room for interpretation. There were a lot more connections being made, but there was also not necessarily one way of interpreting this film, which I really like, because I now see more in it every time I watch it and listen to the text. So finally, yeah, have you anything you'd like to share? Any other advice for filmmakers? Yeah, back up your stuff. Think now about how your film is gonna exist and be accessed in 50 years' time, or just bloody hell, even in 1 year's time. You start there, you're doing really well. Get a hard drive, export your film in a few different formats, preferably ProRes 422HQ. Make a hard drive which is just for archiving, not for working on, and just where stuff goes to live as a library that you can then grab and put your hand on if you need it, or copy really quickly. Because yeah, I think now I'm at a point where I've got too many hard drives and stuff is in too many different places, and I think I wish I'd just learnt my own lesson 10 years ago. But I think the challenge is now that we generate so much media, and projects can be very complex, and it's just genuinely a lot harder to manage stuff. But I would hope that your stuff is around and that people can enjoy it in the years to come. Even if you have a strategy, it's difficult, but if you don't have a strategy, then you're kind of riding your luck a little bit with that one. And yeah, so please start backing your stuff up, and yeah, give it to the Northwest Film Archive is my advice. This is my Noah's Ark archive of Noah's Ark postcards. So after the film, I started looking for postcards of the Noah's Ark ride in Blackpool, such as this one, and do some research on the actual ride, and I found out there's only 2 in the world. One in Blackpool, which doesn't function anymore, but it's still there, and the other one is in Kennywood Park. Where is Kennywood? in PA, Pittsburgh, Kennywood Park in Pittsburgh. There you go. And this one still works. So this idea of the arc itself being something we have to preserve is something, I like loopy things, self-referential things. But I've got many different postcards of Blackpool and also Kennywood Park, and also Orchard Beach in Maine, and then even some, I don't know which one that one is. It looks perhaps a little bit more homemade. So I like Noah's Ark paraphernalia. There's a Garbage Pail Kids Noah's Bath. So I'm trying to collect all the Noah's Ark postcards I can, as well as things to do with films of Noah's Ark. The Last Flight of Noah's Ark, which was a Disney film. In Search of Noah's Ark, which was another film with Brad Crandall. Directed by James L. Conway. So I've not seen either of those, but I love, this kind of stuff. And I think I've dropped my Viewmaster slide somewhere. Yeah. See, it's so easy to lose things. I'm here in a literal archive and I've lost my Viewmaster slides of the Noah's Ark. I hope you enjoy the film. I hope it makes you think about how we look after things. I hope you find your own interpretations in there. As well. I think I know what it means now, but every year that kind of changes. And I think this year has been a year where I've really thought, I thought that was the story, but no, I think the lesson is slightly different. I hope you find your own meanings from it, and enjoy the film.